Ladies and gentlemen, anime fans across the globe, welcome to the Spring 2024 edition of Your Favorite Anime is Not Popular in Japan, the video series where we take a look at Japanese anime rankings and compare them to the terrible taste of the West. Because let's face it, Japan has better taste than us. Okay, usual jokes aside, this is a spring edition of a video series that I've been doing for each season. Its purpose is to dissect, based on certain ranking sites, just how well matched the global market is with Japan when it comes to anime. The usual disclaimers, even though most people skip this part and then they complain later on, completely disregarding what I talk about in here. These rankings are based on different sites, more geared towards the Japanese viewership. This could be through different streaming sites or Japanese television ranking aggregators. All data is taken of the day of the recording and can fluctuate based on episodes airing, availability, exclusivities, early airings, and whatnot. This data is not the end-all be-all. It does not say that your favorite anime sucks, even though I joked about that earlier. It's simply an interesting way to analyze interest in different series, and honestly gives us a good perspective on the success of certain properties. Because despite how well a show does in the West, most of the time, all that really matters to a lot of these companies is how many eyeballs hit it in Japan. Because yes, a lot of anime is just advertisement for source material. First things first, let's check out the global rankings on MyAnimeList and AniList. Now yes, both sites are pretty on point with each other for at least the top 6. And yes, number 1 for both websites is Konosuba Season 3. Definitely a deserved win right there. The series so far with the 3rd season has been absolutely fantastic. I've been thoroughly enjoying it, and it just keeps getting better and better. Now when we go to number 2, that's where we have a little bit of an oddity here. On MyAnimeList, we have Demon Slayer. And it looks like with AniList, Demon Slayer is still down at number 4. Now this series did start late, so I'm assuming that it's probably going to bump up eventually on AniList. I have noticed that AniList for certain like big shonens doesn't do as popular. It does seem like there's a little bit of a difference in the crowds that kind of go to each site. But yeah, still with number 2 and number 4 for only like 2 episodes, it's doing really well. Now with AniList for their number 2, they have Kaiju number 8, whereas on Mal it's down at 5. Now, it's a little bit of an oddity there that they have this kind of a flip-flop with the both sites with Demon Slayer and Kaiju number 8. But me personally, I have been enjoying Kaiju number 8, so that one's another one that's definitely worth it. That's when we get to number 3, which I am kind of surprised about. I'm kind of surprised that Mushoku Tensei JavaScript Incarnation's 2nd season, part 2, has been doing so well for both sites. That's kind of a series that I felt like with part 1 and 2nd season wasn't doing so well, and that's probably because now, with the 2nd parter, a lot of the big fans are probably hyping it up, so people are getting interested in the series, and it's definitely worth it. I'm biased because the idea that I do really love Mushoku Tensei, so I'm really excited to see it up that high for both websites. Going on to number 4 with Mal, we have Reincarnated as a Slime. Now, that one's kind of a surprise because, again, it seems like Slime seems to beat Mushoku Tensei in a lot of polls, at least for Crunchyroll's Anime Awards, but yes, it looks like Reincarnated as Slime is number 4 on Mal, whereas it's number 5 on AniList. Now, it could be that low because, as a lot of people are noting, there's a lot of meetings happening right now, so maybe a lot of people are kind of losing interest in the series, but I do see that it's going to possibly pick up here soon, and hopefully when that happens, maybe it will go up a little bit more, but for now, 4 and 5 is pretty solid. Moving on to number 6 for both websites is My Hero Academia. Now, again, this could be similar to Demon Slayer. This is a series that started really late in the season, so that might actually bump up over time, but I don't know. It could also be a mixture of that and the fact that, at least for me, and a lot of people that have agreed with me, it does seem like the series is kind of overstayed its welcome, but we'll see. It could get better. And then to move on to number 7 for both websites is Windbreaker. Now, that one is not too much of a shock because the studio working behind it and it being similar to like a school brawl type of show, and it has been doing decently well for me. I have been enjoying the series, so we'll see how it goes from there. For both sites, number 8 is Spice and Wolf, which is really great. I'm kind of surprised that it's that high. I wasn't really sure how today's fandom would actually take Spice and Wolf because it's very about economics, it's about the chemistry of the characters themselves, a lot of the trade, and that I don't know. I figured that most of the current anime fans would probably find it to be boring, but it looks like it's doing very well. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. It looks fantastic, and yes, it's more holo. Both sites, number 9 is Demon King Academy, and then beyond that, we have on Mal, Irregular at Magic High, 3rd season, Go-Go Loser Ranger, Archdemon's Dilemma, Day Live, 7th Prince, and Level 2 Cheat. Whereas on AniList, we have number 10, Go-Go Loser Ranger, 7th Prince, Level 2 Cheat, Archdemon Dilemma, Jellyfish. Finally, at least one of the 2 sites finally notes Jellyfish can't swim in the night. I absolutely love that series, but unfortunately way down at 14. I wish it was much higher. And we have Irregular Magic High, 3rd season, Whisper Me a Love Song, Unnamed Memory, and Hanano-kun at number 18. So that's pretty much your Western rankings. Everything below this is pretty much obscure. Jellyfish was way down at 21 on Mal, which is heartbreaking. Laidback Camp, note that. Laidback Camp 3rd season, 23. I thought that would be much higher because there's a massive fandom behind it, but I think because this new season was so far out, and plus I think that it doesn't seem like Crunchyroll is really pushing this series as much as they have the 1st and 2nd season. So I don't know if it's a mixture of those two things. Also, Sound Euphonium is way down at 29, which is a huge shock. Sadness for me, AniList has Train way down at 30. Train to the End of the World is a fantastic series. That's way down at 30. And the other thing to note is Mal has it 32, and AniList has it 33. Blue Archive. That's not a big shock to me because, unfortunately, the series has not been available to the West, or at least North America. And while it's easy to get a hold of elsewhere, it's only now recently possibly going to be going onto YouTube or somewhere else. So maybe when that finally is available, maybe it'll pick up, but it's unfortunate that that's that low. All right. We've heard from the West. We've heard from the global audience. Let's finally dig into Japan and see how much different it is, which honestly, there's a couple things that are similar across the board for both global and Japan, but there is quite a few shockers. Well, not so much shockers if you get their taste. Let's start off with Abema and NicoNico. Now, these are two streaming sites. Abema does a lot of streaming for anime. NicoNico is pretty much like the YouTube of Japan, plus it has a lot of anime streaming as well. I use a aggregating service, which is called Ranking Stalker, where they basically pull all the streamed watch views, whatnot, for both the platforms and then kind of aggregates them together. And I've kind of split it up into both Abema and NicoNico, as well as we'll look at the combined ranking as well. Now, something to keep in mind when we get into these numbers. There's several factors that will affect what these rankings are for each of these services, and later on when we get into the actual TV rankings themselves. Some of these shows are not available on certain platforms, and certain platforms do have exclusivities. So keep that in mind. Something might be really high on Abema because it's not available on NicoNico, or NicoNico has it, but it's a week late, so everybody watches on Abema. Keep that in mind. I'm not going to go through and search every single show to find out what their exclusivities are, which I've been asked to do in the past. I'm like, I'm not going to do that for 60 shows. Just keep that in mind. Take this stuff with a grain of salt. Let's start off things with Abema. Number 1, Seventh Prince. Yes, the Seventh Prince at number 1. And now this is at the point in which it was at its 7th episode. That's pretty crazy. It makes sense. It's a very fun show. It's goofy. It's got lots of ecchi. It's pretty much got everything you want out of a isekai series that you're going to want to watch just to enjoy. Plus, the animation's incredible. Then we go to number 2, we have Archdemon's Dilemma, which is at episode 8. Really great to see that there. It wasn't getting much love in the West, but it looks like Japan is loving it. I've been enjoying it as well, so it's definitely deserved. Now, number 3, we have Mushoku Tensei 2nd season, part 2. Now, this is only 6 episodes, so that's pretty telling when you have a show that's only has 6 episodes that's at number 3, versus the other 2 shows are at 7 and 8 episodes. But yeah, Mushoku Tensei, even in Japan, is doing very well. Super excited about that. It's well-deserved, and I think it's going to get more hype from this point. I've seen a lot of points throughout the week where Mushoku Tensei, like after it airs, it's number 1. Again, it all depends on when its episode airs. It can sometimes fluctuate these numbers. Number 4, we have Windbreaker. Actually, pretty surprised that it's doing as well as it's doing. I think it was an established, beloved franchise, so I guess that makes sense that it's doing so well on their numbers. And then number 5, we have Konosuba, with only 6 episodes as well. Its 3rd season, coming in at 5. Really fantastic again. Seems to be doing great across the board. I mean, we'll get into it later on, but it looks like pretty much every ranking system, Konosuba's 3rd season is doing really well. Number 6, we have Reincarnated as a Slime. That one's doing pretty much equally as good on these platforms as it's doing in the West. So it seems like across the board as well, Reincarnated Slime's doing well. Then number 7, we have Level 2 Cheat. Number 8, Irregular Magic High. Number 9, Grandma Grandpa Young Again. That was a surprise. Number 9, that series coming up, which is, as I'll say in here in a minute, NicoNico is at number 9 as well. So it looks like people are really enjoying that series, which is fantastic. Number 10 on Abema, we have Kaiju number 8. That's actually very surprising because Kaiju number 8 is pretty much for free on Twitter that everybody in Japan can watch. So for it still to be number 10, even though most people might be possibly watching it earlier on Twitter, is actually a surprise there. Remonster at number 11, which is kind of a shocker there, but again, definitely fits a crowd and it's been doing well. Number 12, Appraisal Skill. Number 13, Banished Hero. Number 14, Spice and Wolf. Really low there, but we'll see here in a minute that it might be some people watching it elsewhere. Number 15, Hananoi-kun. Number 16, Layback Camp, way down there at 16, which it technically is a much higher on NicoNico, so it's probably most people watching on NicoNico. Angel Apartment at number 17, and then finally Demon Slayer at 18. And again, this is based on viewership, and there's only been, I believe, 1 or 2 episodes by the point of I pulled this data, so that's probably why it's so low there. Tombo at number 19. Tombo, Oi Tombo finally gets recognition. That's like hidden in Amazon for the West for us, but it's a really good series, but 19 on Abema. And then finally, the last one I'll point out is number 20. Again, Blue Archive. And again, I think that might be an exclusivity or something like that because it's higher on NicoNico, but again, at least it's in 20. But let's get into NicoNico, because I think NicoNico has all these surprises for me, honestly. A lot of surprises in NicoNico for me. Again, like I said earlier, Konosuba. See the 3rd season? Number 1, yes. For NicoNico, Konosuba is at number 1. It's doing very well there. I think that's the thing that we're going to take from this entire video is that Konosuba is doing incredible. But yes, number 2 for NicoNico. This is where it finally gets its recognition. It finally gets some love, and it's deserved love. Blue Archive. Yes, Blue Archive with only 6 episodes is number 2 of NicoNico. Massive, massive stuff. I really love it. It's been a great series so far. And let's just face it, the fandom for Blue Archive are very passionate, so they're going to be watching the show. I would assume that most of those views probably from the same person watching them over and over again, but still. Moving on to number 3, we have Layback Camp. Yes, finally, Layback Camp in a top 3 on one of these platforms is fantastic. It's been a great season so far, and again, kind of surprising it's not as popular in the West, but it is what it is. Number 4, Mushoku Tensei. Again, finally popping up there again. Mushoku Tensei is doing very well on NicoNico as well. Great stuff. I'm only looking forward to more of it, and I think it's probably going to go up more as this next part comes up, so we'll see. Number 5, Spice and Wolf. Like I said earlier, it's really low on Abema, but it looks like it's much higher on NicoNico, so that's where it seems like most people are watching it, which makes sense. And then number 6, finally, it finally gets recognition. Train to the End of the World. Thank you. Japan understands, at least on NicoNico, that Train to the End of the World is a fantastic series, and it's much deserved to be that high. I absolutely love this series. It doesn't feel like anybody's watching it in the West, but I've been loving it. So, and additionally, number 7 for NicoNico, Salad Bowl of Eccentrics. That's another one that's very much so crickets around it in the West, but it seems like it's doing very well in NicoNico, which is a huge surprise as well. Number 8, we have Level 2 Cheat. Number 9 again, Grandma Grandpa, Young Again. Number 10, Sound Euphonium Season 3. Finally, again, that's very, very low on the Western charts, which is really shocking because there's a big fandom behind that series, but it doesn't seem like it's really grabbing the overall audience. I usually kind of accept that when it comes to Slice of Life. Slice of Life just unfortunately does not get the attention that action comedy series do have for anime, so it makes sense, I guess, that it's that low for us in the West. Number 11, Battery. Kaiju number 8 at number 12. 13, Jellyfish. Again, finally, some attention for Jellyfish. Again, not really doing well elsewhere, but at least finally right there, it's doing very good. Regular at Magic High, Angel Apartment, Appraisal Skill, 7th Prince way down low. Again, probably because it has like an early access in Abema, but that is what it is. Banished Hero, Reincarnate as a Slime at 19, and then Remonster at 20. So, good stuff there, good stuff there. Like I said, a lot of surprise in there, especially with Layback Camp, Blue Archive being so high, Spice and Wolf getting some love, Train getting some love, Salad Bowl, really cool stuff. So the combined rankings for both Abema and NicoNico together, of course, going to be Konosuba Season 3, Mushoku Tensei Season 2, Part 2. Again, that's based off of them both having 6 episodes, so that's pretty even. 7th Prince at number 3, Archdemon's Dilemma, and then Windbreaker at number 5. So really, really interesting stuff there. Again, very much so different. Besides Konosuba and Mushoku Tensei, at least the 3rd through the 5th is very different than the West. Outside of those streaming services, yes, we do have some TV rankings websites that kind of aggregate some information around rankings and whatnot. Typically with video research and Kanto, a lot of it is your family-oriented shows, the stuff that we don't normally over here as fans of seasonal anime consider anime. But they are anime, obviously. We do consider them anime. We just don't, a lot of people don't really watch them. Things like Doraemon, Detective Conan, Sazae-san, that kind of stuff. But every now and then we'll get something in there that is kind of shocking. Like some certain seasonal anime will find its way in there. One Piece is typically always in there. It's always keeping that in that chart point. It's currently at number 9. My Hero Academia found itself at number 7. And the other kind of surpriser, which not really a surprise, yes, the moment that Demon Slayer comes back, is number 2. So it's definitely weaseled its way in there, and that makes sense. Again, Demon Slayer's huge. Anime Iga did have some interesting stuff in their ranking services. They had Hananoi-kun at number 10, Seventh Prince at number 9, Spice and Wolf at number 8. Cool stuff there. Looks like it's doing a lot better on that TV service. We have Yuri Camp at number 7, The Fable at number 6. That's actually doing really, really well. That's kind of a shocker. Again, kind of a surprise, or more in the idea that it's not really on any of the services, but again, it might not be available on those services. So very cool stuff there. Appraisal Skill at number 5. This was cool because I didn't see it really anywhere else, and it kind of made me sad, even for Japan, because it's not really getting much attention in the West. Raven does not choose its master. Easily, probably my second favorite new series of the season. Absolutely love it. Number 4 on Anime Iga's ranking services, which really fantastic. Definitely a must watch. Number 3, we have Kaiju number 8. Again, surprised because it's available on Twitter for pretty much free, but again, TV services and whatnot. Reincarnated as Slime at number 2. And of course, number 1, Demon Slayer. Again, Demon Slayer taking the chart. And that's it. That's the TV rankings for Japan, and comparison to the global audience, very much so. Like I said, you have some things across the board, which is kind of keeping even, with things like Konosuba doing well all the way across the board, Mushoku Tensei doing well right across the board, even things like Windbreakers doing well, Demon Slayer, Slimy Sekai, those are all doing well across the board. But our oddities, obviously, this time around is that with Japan, Seventh Prince is doing way, way good. Laid Back Camp is doing much better than in the West. Of course, again, Blue Archive, but again, that's probably because of availability, let's be honest. Archdemon's Dilemma was doing really, really well in Japan. That's a shocker. Really happy to see that Train to the End of the World is doing so well over there. Salabulba Eccentric's doing well over there, as opposed to the West, where it doesn't seem like, unfortunately, we really care about it. So that's a shocker as well. But yeah, as usual, very interesting stuff. Always love looking at this information, and I hope that information being brought to you guys, you find it interesting. Like I said before, this stuff is not final. It doesn't mean your anime sucks. And yes, all of this stuff fluctuates, and it differs based on availability. So keep that in mind. But I hope you guys found this interesting. If you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what the most interesting stuff in this rankings are for you. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I have news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have Patreon link, tips link, so thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate it, but it does, and you'll take care.